Have you had the talk with your parents or siblings? No, not that one. I mean, talking with your parents about their estate plan. This can be an awkward conversation for a lot of people, especially because folks in the silent generation and baby boomers were really taught to be silent about money. And asking your parents whether they've planned for what happens to their assets after their death isn't a comfortable topic to bring up. I mean, you don't want to sound like a gold digger, like you just want to find out how much money you're getting. There are ways to make this talk easier though, and it's important to do so. Think about it. If your parents passed away now, would you know where their will or trust is being kept? Do you know which attorney they've worked with? Do you know what to do with their house or their business? Let's take this process one step at a time. So the first step, I think, is just to talk with your parents about where they keep their records. This is a reasonable enough request. I encourage parents to write up a list of what assets they do have. They don't have to put financial amounts to it. They don't have to say how much, but at least where the accounts are held and what the account numbers are. Also, if parents have online accounts, they should keep a list of those accounts and their passwords so somebody can access them later. You can work with your parents to make sure that this list is up to date so that when and if something happens to them, you'll be ready to be able to take over or provide that information to the person who's listed as successor trustee. And if they push back, you can blame me or share this video with them. Tell them that I'm encouraging people to do this so they don't have to look around to find these assets. I mean, you might think, hey, there must be some sort of depository somewhere where you can enter somebody's social security number and find out all the stuff that they have. Well, guess what? There's not. And there's also not something like this for the trust. So if you don't know where the trust is held or who the attorney is, that can be a big problem. You have to identify the trust. So it's good for privacy reasons that we don't have, the list of stuff that your parents have that you can just access with their social security number. But it can also make the trust administration process to be a pain. So definitely work with your parents to get a list of their assets and make sure you know where they are. Now, what if you have a parent whose capacity isn't great? Like maybe they're in the beginning stages of dementia. How do you talk to them about that? Well, I think what's important to do, because everybody could be in that stage at some point, so you don't have to confront them about what their capacity level is like, but instead you can say, hey, mom or dad, when something happens to you, are things lined up so that I can take over to help you manage your stuff? Because that could happen to anybody. Anybody could get into a car accident or be in a coma. So they need to have their durable power of attorney lined up and signed and updated to make sure that somebody can sign on their behalf, and also their advanced healthcare directive so somebody can talk to their doctors. Okay, so as long as these things are lined up, then you can make sure that you can step into their shoes if and when something happens. If they're alive, but they're incapacitated, or they need to resign, or they're just elderly and confused, right? Then you can take over and help them manage their assets on their behalf. Now, I think that the best tool for communication is a family meeting. So why should you do these? Well, I have several reasons. First of all, everybody gets to meet the estate planning attorney. I love doing family meetings. I love getting all the family members together, and we get to talk about the structure of the trust. Sometimes I'll share the flow chart that we do so people can see, okay, what happens at mom's death or at dad's death or the first person to die? Where do things go? Do they go equally or unequally? So then the kids are prepared. If somebody's getting more, they can find out why is that? So then they don't feel like you're shortchanging them or you don't love them any less. They understand your reasoning behind it, and that's really more likely to help avoid family fighting. And I have some tips on how to avoid family fights in this other video that I encourage you to watch after this one. Now, during this family meeting, kids can ask questions because they're really curious. They might want to know, like you might be one of the kids. You might want to know, who's going to be managing my money that I inherit? Is it me that can manage my money, or is it going to be somebody else? And are you comfortable with that somebody else? This can also help avoid conflicts. Like if your parents are setting it up for a sibling to manage your money and you don't want that, you can speak up now, and then maybe your parents can change their estate plan or adjust things, or maybe they explain to you why they've set things up a certain way. Maybe you want to continue living in your residence. Is that going to be possible? We can talk about that.
Hey everyone! If you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
Now, as I mentioned, you don't have to share exact numbers. I know most parents are hesitant to tell their kids how much money they actually have because they don't want to create a trust fund baby. They don't want their kid just to be waiting around, twiddling their thumbs, waiting to receive their inheritance and not working hard and doing the very best that they can. So parents can share this information without disclosing the actual numbers, but you just get a flavor for what's going to happen. Or they can share the numbers if they want. So then a question is, who should attend this family meeting? Well, definitely I think the parents and whichever kids might benefit from it. Now there are some kids who you might not want to invite. Maybe they'll get too anxious with this type of conversation, or maybe they just don't understand what's going on. Or maybe they've been disinherited and they're not part of the family anymore, and the parents don't want to involve them. This doesn't have to be a big, drawn out, dramatic affair, okay? It's really a check-in, a happy time to celebrate where the parents are at and to plan for what's going to happen next. Now, what about in-laws? Like, you may be a child and you want your spouse to attend this family meeting. Well, it's really up to your parents. Some parents really like their in-laws and some don't. Now, whether they like the in-laws or not, 9 times out of 10, they're just going to be leaving money to the kids and not the in-law. So the parents might feel a little bit uncomfortable having their son-in-law or their daughter-in-law attending a meeting and knowing that son-in-law or daughter-in-law is not getting any money from them, even though this is quite typical. But sometimes they really like the son-in-law or daughter-in-law, or maybe they've even named them as a successor trustee because they're very responsible and they're involved with naming acting as guardian of their grandchildren. So it really depends on the parents whether they want them to be involved. I also like to have other advisors there, like the family's financial advisor or their accountant, so we can really make sure that all the professionals are on the same page. I have a video called The Trifecta of Estate Planning. We talk about estate planners, financial advisors, and CPAs and how we should all work together. So this really makes sure that the whole team is ready. You can also invite a successor trustee. If you have a different family member or friend who's named as successor trustee, they can join this family meeting as well and get a better idea for what their roles and responsibilities are as trustee and who are the different players. Also, during the family meetings, I like asking the kids about their own estate planning. We want to make sure that the family does their multi-generational planning really well. I mean, what happens if the parents do a great plan and set things up great for the kids, and then the kids inherit it and they don't have an estate plan and their estate goes through probate? I mean, wouldn't that be a miserable experience? So as we have one family member working on their estate plan, that's a great time for the whole extended family to get their estate plan together. And if they don't feel comfortable, if the kids don't feel comfortable working with their parents' estate planning attorney, that's fine. They can go to a different estate planning attorney, or they can all work together. And what we do as attorneys is we have a multiple representation waiver, which allows us to represent different family members, but we promise to keep the information confidential, and we will have to withdraw from representation if there does come up to be a conflict between the family members. So I hope this gives you a better idea. If you're a child, an adult child, and you want to get more involved in your parents' planning, or if you're a parent and you want your children to know more about your own estate plan, I hope this gave you a good idea of how to start communicating about these things so that you can all be on the same page and we can avoid that family drama and fighting when you're gone.
Hello everyone! If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time!